Unexplained infertility is such a frustrating diagnosis. When you're given no indication what could be preventing you from getting pregnant and multiple rounds of treatment haven't been successful, where do you go to from there? On today's episode, we get to hear from one amazing woman who found her own way through this and how she leaned on these practices that she found to support her through so much heartache.
Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the podcast. I am so honored to have you here with me today and incredibly excited to have the wonderful Kamila share her story. Now, Kamila and I met when she was at a pretty low point in her fertility journey, and despite many rounds of testing, she was told everything was completely fine with her and her husband. There was no obvious reason why she wasn't getting pregnant. She ended up going to a yoga retreat overseas, which really sparked something in her, and she knew there had to be a better way to get through this journey, which is how we then met. So I'm excited for you to hear how that unfolded for her and how it really helped her throughout her journey of trying to conceive. Now, before we begin, a reminder, we have a week and a bit to go until we start Embrace the Journey. This is my free 3-day live fertility yoga series where we get to dive into all of the practices that Kamila speaks about on this podcast today and show you how they can start having an impact on your fertility and your overall health and your mental health as well. We have 3 practices over 3 days, and you get so many things to take away from this series to put into your toolkit. You know, you hear me speak about so much this idea of having our own little toolbox of things that we can pull out and use when we're struggling to help support ourselves through this journey. And so I can't wait for you to dive in and learn what they all are. We're going to go through many different fertility yoga practices and poses and sequences that you can do. I'll take you through some guided meditations, different breath work practices, and you get to take all of those replays home with you and use them whenever you need. And you also get 2 free gifts from me as soon as you register. So please get your name down on the list for this event. Now, the link is in the show notes. If you have any questions about the series or how it can help you in your own personal journey, please reach out to me via email or DM or voice note. Remember, I do have a link as well where you can click and leave a voice note from your phone. So let's get into today's episode. Here's Kamila.
Kamila, thank you so much for coming and chatting to me today. I'm so excited for this conversation and I've been looking forward to it for ages. You have an incredible story that I would love to share with everyone today. But for a little bit of context, can we start by learning a little bit about you and where did your fertility journey begin?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast. It's an honor and pleasure to speak to you and to share a journey that, a lot of women will know is not easy, but it can end in the best way.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So a bit about me. I'm Kamila. I'm originally from Poland. I now live in Germany, Hamburg, with my husband. I am a marketing manager, currently working freelance. And, well, I've had a very, let's say, adventurous life. I've lived abroad, many different countries. And I think having a family was always something that I wanted to have at some point. And when I met my husband, I knew he was the right person to go on that adventure with. And so when I moved to Hamburg 5 years ago, it was a big change, as it was yet again a new country to settle into and to learn the language, to set up a whole new group of friends and just set up my life here. But I think I got accustomed fairly fast. I found one job, then the next job, and we got married in Poland. And naturally, as you do, you start trying. You start, well, first thinking about when to start the family. First, we wanted, of course, to have our own exploring time and travel a lot together. So we did all that. And so after we got married, we started trying, and it, well, took, let's say, longer than we hoped it would take. We tried to, at the beginning, obviously stay calm, and everyone says it always takes a while. After a year, we said, okay, this is usually the point where the doctors or the gynecologists tell you, okay, you might want to think about doing some tests. So we started on that next chapter of trying.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so common, isn't it? We assume that we have the choice is ours, that we're going to start a family when we want to. And we think, oh, I did the exact same thing. I got married and we're like, we're going to travel, we're going to move countries, we're going to do all these fun things. We've got plenty of time. And yeah, it just sadly doesn't work out that way for all of us. So you went and had some initial testing done. And what did that come back and show you?
There was nothing that would have said, okay, this is why it's not happening. So the, let's say, classic unexplained infertility. So of course we were relieved. And so we then gave ourselves a few more months to say, well, okay, let's see how it goes. At least we know that there's nothing wrong per se. But then again, several more months passed by, and then the gynecologist gave us the, well, directions to the fertility clinic and kind of said, okay, that's your next step. And at first I just, like, I couldn't really believe that, oh, okay, so this is like what we have to do now. It's, I had heard about it of in my family as well, and of friends that also went through it. But in my closest group of friends or girlfriends, it happened so easily for all of them, or it felt like, or it looked like it was so easy, So I was like, oh, why? Yeah. Okay, now we have to take that step and kind of admit that, okay, we do need this help.
Yeah. It's a really hard thing to hear, isn't it? And especially when you sit in that unexplained category, and it's kind of, like you said, a relief to know that there's nothing seriously wrong. But at the same time, it's like, well, okay, then why is nothing happening? And it seems like the only solutions that we have are we'll just go straight to IVF. And it's, whoa, like I didn't see that coming. That's a huge, huge step, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so did the fertility clinic do any additional testing? Was there anything else that they were able to tell you?
No. So we went to our first appointment, and then we were kind of presented with like what our options are. And so we were advised to first do or try the IUIs, so the intrauterine insemination, and then see how that works. And if not, then go into the next step of the IVF process. And at first, really, like, stepping into the clinic, I felt so much resistance. And I don't know why. I was like, there has to be a way to get there without going immediately into this process. So I remember listening to some of your podcasts where it's this like, it doesn't work for a certain amount of time, and then you're just labeled as, okay, fertility clinic, and that's it. And I think that's when I also started like researching and thinking, okay, maybe there are like more holistic, natural ways of helping ourselves. And so I did acupuncture as well. We went for the IUIs. And we tried 3 times IUI. And unfortunately, it didn't work. I felt really like I already felt not broken, but I felt so like I felt my hope leaving, because I still had this picture that this was still like the best way to like get there, let's say, as naturally as possible. So I knew that after that we needed a break again to reset and rethink, and then go back to the clinic.
I find it, I completely agree with you. It's like when you learn about the IUI process, it's like, how can it not work? You've got everything that you need. So, and especially when someone like you is in that unexplained category, I'm like, but the sperm is right there and the egg is right there. Like, what? Come on. It's like, and it's so frustrating. And it's not like you were even getting pregnant and then, having a chemical pregnancy or anything. It just wasn't happening at all. Just so frustrating, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's when you start, I think for me, that's when all the doubts and the negative thoughts really came in. And I was like, okay, there must be something wrong. Like, why isn't anyone doing any more tests? Yeah, so there must be something wrong if in this IUI way it's still not working. Like, as you just mentioned, it's right there. It should be easy, right?
So you decided to take a bit of a break, and what did that look like for you? Did you have a long time from the clinic? Did you continue to try at home while you were having a break?
So at the time, I was also going through a really turbulent phase in my career. So I had also, on top of that, a lot of corporate related stress, which also wasn't very good. And we're also searching for a new apartment, and there were so many, let's say, elements in our life that it was just all happening at the same time, and it felt like we were just trying to solve one thing after the next and make something happen. So I was like, okay, I need to do something about my job, either continue in the stress or maybe try something else. We hate our current apartment. We need to find somewhere else. We can't live like this. And there was just a lot of like puzzle pieces, and this big one on top of, the fertility challenge. And so we decided to go to Sri Lanka. And this was January of last year. So we said, okay, let's just kick off the year, fresh start, far away, go back to a country we already knew because we did our honeymoon there the year before that. So we're like, let's go to somewhere familiar, but still have the opportunity to like explore a bit of the other side of the country we hadn't seen already. And so we went to the south, and I had found an amazing Ayurveda retreat that we did. And this is where I really got into, I think, yoga specifically, and discovered breath work and meditation, like cacao ceremonies, and all these more like, let's say, spiritual or woo-woo practices. And I felt like that really grounded me, gave me like a restart.
Yeah. That's so interesting you say that as well. And I did not grow up as a very spiritual person, and my family wasn't religious. So it wasn't really something I ever thought about. And then I came to my yoga practice from my exercise science background, which was very much like, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to help me get pregnant. Like, I'll do anything. And I thought, well, from a physiological level, this is what's going to help me. But exactly as you said, it was that feeling of being so grounded and held. And really, it really changed me finding these practices, being able to lean into something that was, it's like it was more than what you could see in front of you. You kind of got this impression that there was something bigger at play. And I think that most humans really strive to find that in our life, which is why religion is so prevalent and important to so many people. So I love that you mentioned that, because it is something that I think we need on this journey. We need that space for ourselves to be able to go, do you know what? There's more to this journey than the test results and the medical procedures. And at the end of the day, whatever makes you feel amazing is what I'm here for. So I'd love to come back to those practices, but I would love to hear the rest of your journey first. So you came back from Sri Lanka and you started IVF. Is that right?
Yes. So we came back, and I think 2 months later we said, okay, let's go for it. Let's go to the clinic. I was then in a different mindset already to say, okay, IVF, let's do it. I'm ready. Yeah. Going in for the egg retrieval, that was something special. I was very nervous. I had never gone under full narcosis, so for me, I was very nervous about it, but also in a way like excited. I was like, oh wow, I could produce 13 eggs like crazy. um, and after that, of course, then you wait for the results of how many were fertilized, and our doctor had already recommended that we do a split, that we do IVF and ICSI, which I'm incredibly grateful for now, looking back, because she already took that one step ahead and thought, okay, might as well try both in this one cycle and see which performs better, because why go through then one more egg retrieval to then only do ICSI, for example. So we did IVF. We used the eggs that were fertilized with the IVF method. In the end, we had, I think, 5 that were fertilized, and then only 1 made it to the transfer day. So again, for me, that was just like, wow, from going from, let's say, the 7 IVF eggs to then 5 and to then just 1, that was already showing me, okay, it's really not easy. Thinking back to how devastated I was about the IUIs not working, or before how it wasn't working, it's like really a miracle. Yeah. So we got to the transfer day, and then the 2-week wait, which is just the most challenging, difficult phase that you have to go through every month, really, when you're trying. But I think it's especially, it just adds another layer on top when you've done IVF and you've really done everything you can, and then you're waiting for the result. And because I was also taking progesterone, so the doctor had already said, well, your period might be a bit later than it will usually be. And as she said, it was late, but I was already, picturing in my mind, ooh, maybe it finally worked. And yeah, so it just made the wait even more difficult. And then we went into the clinic for the blood test to check if it worked, if we got pregnant. And then getting the call with the result. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Yeah. And that was a blow, of course, as a lot of women know or can imagine. Even though I had heard from so many people and read that the first cycle of IVF, it often doesn't work. It's usually the second, the third, the fourth. So I was already trying to get myself used to the idea or the thought that, okay, it's just the first try. But yeah, you can't prepare yourself for that.
Oh, you really can't. And it's a very, very expensive and emotionally draining test, isn't it? This first round of IVF, because basically it is a bit of a test because we don't know how you're going to respond and we don't know how the embryos are going to go. And there's so many unknowns. And whilst it is the most incredible science, like it blows my mind that we can create babies in a lab. Like it's just amazing. But at the end of the day, like it's not an exact science, because if it was, it would work every time, or it would work a lot more often than it doesn't. And that is not true. So, and the other thing that I found the hardest about the process was all of the things that you didn't know were then going to become an issue. It's like you go into it thinking, okay, well, we get the eggs collected, we fertilize them, we transfer them. But they don't always tell you that, you know, you might end up with 15 follicles, but only collect 10 eggs and then only 5 fertilize. So there is just every step of the way, all of these new problems that you didn't know you were going to have. And it is so exhausting and hard.
Yes.
And then when it doesn't work, there is just so much that went into that little embryo, and it's incredibly difficult.
Just want to mention that that's why I'm also grateful that at the time I was already working as a freelancer. So I was working from home. And every time we got that news that it didn't work, I could really process it in my own way at home, cry it all out if I needed to, and I did need, let's be honest, you cry every time.
You do.
And I was like, I can't imagine the strength that women have to process that in an office.
I know. Oh, I know. It's unbelievable to think that you just have to go and cry in the bathroom and then put on a brave face and go back about your day like nothing happened. It's unimaginable.
Next, we took another little break because we said, okay, we don't have to rush into this. Let's give our bodies another little reset, especially mentally and emotionally. So I think we took another 3 months off. We kind of said, okay, let's, enjoy the summer. We went to a big music festival and, had all the drinks and danced our way and just, kind of let go. Because we also said, well, maybe next round works. And then next summer, we're going to be doing something completely different. And that was also, I think, a good way to kind of like let go, let loose, have fun. And then we were ready again to go back. And we knew we still had the 2 frozen ICSI embryos. So we said, okay, let's go back for those and see how it goes.
Amazing.
And we did. We also then decided to transfer both. We had the option to either do 1 or 2, but at that point I was also kind of ready, like, okay, no, go full force. Let's try our luck. Even knowing that it might result in twins. And so we went back, we did the transfer. This time I also felt like a different energy from our doctor. She also said, these 2 are very good quality. It's looking great. Yeah, so I already felt a different vibe in that room, which I think also helped. And then 2 weeks later, we got the best news.
Oh, and now you're 17 weeks and amazing. Thank you for sharing your journey. It's so emotionally charged, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Get all the tears out. It took me years of recounting my journey and my story, and I tell my story all the time. It took me years to be able to tell it without bursting into tears. And I still sometimes do if it's that kind of time in my cycle, and it just takes you right back there, doesn't it? It's just so unbelievably difficult. Oh my goodness. And so at what point in your journey did you and I meet? Was it after you did your retreat in Sri Lanka, or had we started practicing together before then?
It was after. So we did our Sri Lanka trip in January, and I think February or March I signed up for Elements.
Yeah. And so what was it that drew you to the practice before that? Like, was it something you had never experienced before you went to your retreat, or was it something you'd always kind of come back to throughout your life?
Well, I had always done yoga before, or I think I started around high school. It was never a very regular activity, but it's something I always enjoyed and ended up going back to. And for the first time, though, in Sri Lanka, we got the kind of basics behind it. And we were in that setting of, finding out about the culture and the history and the spirituality behind yoga and kind of the mindset that supports it. And I knew, okay, I need to keep doing this. And I think I had already listened to a few of your podcasts before I went to Sri Lanka. And I said, okay, so now when I come back, this will be my thing. and also, I think more important part was needing a community.
Absolutely. That's the thing I think that we tend to forget about on this journey as well, isn't it? And it's really hard to connect with people who haven't been on this journey. It's literally impossible to have a proper conversation about it if you haven't experienced it yourself, because people don't get it. And even the most caring and generous friends and family members that we have, they still can't emphasize with you on that level that you need. And we forget that, human connection is so essential to us being able to regulate our nervous systems properly and to actually live our lives to the fullest. So it's good that you mentioned that as well, because when obviously we do everything online, but when you are in that space together where it's just the energy of, a dozen women from all around the world who are completely in that same space that you are, it's really powerful. And even as someone who is no longer trying to conceive, being around that, like, it blows me away every week to be surrounded by those stories. And thank you for mentioning that, because I think it's really important, not something we talk about enough. I would love to ask you, what was it about the practices that you found helpful? So what was it that you sort of noticed that changed, or did anything become easier within your life?
It definitely helped me find calm. It was that regular meet up during the week where I was committed to getting on the mat, taking the time for myself, and also just be in a space, even though it's virtual, like you said, with other women who are going through the same journey, and some are even in the same phase of their cycle. And that's what I always found really, like, I don't know if comforting, but like reassuring. We're all every month just going through it, hoping for the best, and also trying to take care of our bodies and our minds while going through this mental roller coaster.
That's it. Because like the doctors will take care of the physical stuff and we can take all our supplements and do all the right things. But you're right, we need something to take care of our minds and our mental health as well. And that looks so different for everyone. But just like you said, it was that space and time for yourself that I found so needed. And I thought, I'll start these practices. I'll do it occasionally, like once or twice a week. But I ended up coming to my mat every single day because it felt like such a relief to be able to have that time. So I so resonate with that. How did you lean into these practices after your first transfer wasn't successful? To be able to go, I'm devastated this didn't work, but I know it will work. And I feel like there was that energy about you the whole time that I had known you. You obviously, it was everything that you went through was so hard, but you never really came at it with this like it's never going to happen energy, which a lot of us do. How did you do that? Because I think that a lot of people would love to know. How did you keep that faith, and did your practices help you?
When I joined the community, it was this comfort and knowing that everyone in that call knows like what you're going through.
Oh, absolutely. Take all the time you need. It puts you right back in there, honestly. And pregnancy hormones don't help.
What really helped me after the first failed IVF, I think that was the biggest hurdle, was just having this space to go online or like this virtual community and knowing that you're totally understood, because the women who are there have been through it or are going through it, or if you're in the same stage of the cycle, you might have gone through it at the exact same time. And the other coaches, it was just so helpful to hear that advice or even just comforting words, because coming from someone who's been there and knows what it's like is different than someone who luckily didn't have to go through it. So I feel it's when you hear advice from friends and family or women that never had to go through IVF, it just doesn't ring true.
They have no idea. No, I understand completely. I would love to ask you, what would you say to yourself, or if anyone who is listening to this is also at a point in their journey where they perhaps think that things are never going to happen, or they feel stuck or lost, if you could go back to that person when you were first told that you would have to go through IVF and treatments, what would you go back and tell her now?
Trust the process. Believe in your own strength. But when you're there, it's hard to believe, especially when you're already on a long journey, because at the end of the day, you're still, you're hearing those words and they're comforting, but you're still asking yourself, but why? Why is it taking so long? And why is it happening to me?
Yeah, I completely understand that. It's easy to say in hindsight, isn't it? And I still catch myself sometimes when people ask me for advice, and I think, God, it's so easy for me to say this because I'm not right there anymore. I'm not in the middle of it. But maybe one day you'll be at the end, at the other side as well, and you'll be able to look back and all of these things that sound a bit silly in the moment, trust the process, trust your own timeline, trust your journey. As annoying as it is to hear in the moment, it's so true. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with me today. Is there anything else that you would like to share or leave listeners with before we finish up?
Yeah, even though it can be a very long journey, sometimes take a year, sometimes take 6. Through it all, you also, or how I had it, I also got to know myself, also discovered things I probably wouldn't have discovered otherwise. And it's a tough process, but can have a very, very happy ending.
And you are absolute proof of that, Kamila. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. You're amazing, and I wish you nothing but the best throughout all of your pregnancy and well beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode and listening to Camila's journey. And I love it so much when all of that emotion just kind of bubbles to the surface, and it shows that there is just so much that goes into this journey and that it stays with you. And there are so many ways that we can support and heal ourselves along the way. So a reminder before we finish up to please get your name down for Embrace the Journey, my free 3-day live fertility yoga series. And for a limited time following this series, we open the doors to the In Your Element Fertility Yoga program. So I just want to give you a little bit of information about that. The doors aren't going to be open until after we finish our free 3-day live series. But this is where you get to take all of the practices that Kamila and I spoke about today to the next level. And more importantly, I think, to really be guided through every single step, because it's all very well to, go on YouTube and do a couple of fertility yoga practices or download some meditations that you found somewhere. But unless you're really tailoring them to what you need, to what you're doing on your own journey, to what your body needs, I think is incredibly important. And I love being able to be able to guide my students through those times of confusion or I have no idea what is next. So no matter where you are on your journey, this is something that is going to benefit you. So whether you are just starting out on your trying to conceive journey, whether you are considering going down the assisted part of IUI or IVF treatments, maybe you've been through multiple rounds of treatments and they haven't been successful, and also if you've experienced the devastation of pregnancy loss. So there are ways that we can help you through no matter which stage of this journey you are on. And it's also a way to come back to something when everything feels so helpless. You get stuck in this point of, I have no idea what to do next or who to turn to. It's a way to come back to something to keep you grounded. And you get to surround yourself with amazing, awesome women from all around the world who are on their own journeys of trying to conceive, some for a very short amount of time, some for a very long amount of time. And you get to sit in that energy and be held by people who get it. And I am always thrown by how incredibly powerful that is. So we have ongoing fertility yoga practices that we do every week. We have monthly coaching calls to help you overcome a lot of those mental blocks that come up when you're trying to conceive. Things like, this is never going to happen. I've left it too late. My eggs are too old. All of these things that we can't help going over and over again in our mind. We get to help you move through all of that as well. And we also bring in the science part of this journey, which is, just as important. We need both. So you'll get to hear from fertility doctors. I work closely with quite a few fertility doctors who recommend this program to their patients. We also have a fertility nutritionist and a fertility naturopath on staff. So they come in to run workshops and you get to ask all your questions directly to them. And lastly, on top of this, you also get access to all of my online fertility, IVF, and pregnancy courses. So it's a month-to-month program. There are no joining fees. You can cancel anytime at all. And I am so excited to welcome you. If you have any questions, please reach out to me before we open the doors. And it might be your last chance this year. So now next week on the podcast, we're going to be speaking about that one moment where your fertility journey begins to change. When things start to take you in the right direction, and how it's so hard to miss that moment if you are not looking for the signs. Now, we also have the last in our Infertility Stories episodes coming up next Friday. And this is an insane story. I'm almost still in disbelief how she was able to overcome so much to get to her pregnancy. So I cannot wait for you to hear both of those episodes next week. But until then, I am sending you all of my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility.
The most common thing I hear from students is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life, and they have no idea how to get back to a place of calm, peace, and regulation. This January, I am hosting a free 3-day live fertility yoga event. In this series, I will be taking you through my exact process for helping you move through this. We start by giving you the tools to help regulate your nervous system. We then work with your cycle to support your hormones and to know which practices support you at each phase. And lastly, and what I think is the most important part, is that I'll help reconnect you with your body and rebuild the trust that is needed to bring your baby home. I've taken hundreds of women through this process, and what I hear time and time again is that these practices give them back that sense of peace that this journey takes from you so easily. And it's something that you'll carry through with you to motherhood and beyond. So join me. We start on January 28th. Visit elementpilatesyoga.com/waitlist or click the link in the show notes, and I can't wait to see you there.